What's up, guys? This is Andrew Smersek with Combat Archery. I'm here today with Calvin Lim, and he's going to be talking about what dimension of training do you have. So, kind of a conversation that we had up in Pennsylvania recently, and I really liked where it was going. I was able to track on it real quick because there's a lot of things that I have seen in people. I'm gonna try to let Calvin do most of the talking, and I'll have some questions, maybe some interjections, but
Sure.
he's already thought this through, wrote it in a book,
Not published.
not published, but not finished. But he's like,
And
he's
forgot
really,
it. And
yeah.
I've forgotten it like 10 times.
But yeah, this is a conversation that those of you who train will really appreciate, and especially if you've been trying to get a friend to train with you. And I think this will answer a lot of questions that y'all have. So, Calvin, why don't you give like a short little introduction about what you've done, and then we can get right into it.
Okay. Hey, guys. I'm Calvin. I don't know. I'll work backwards because that's how I always do it. Currently, I work part-time at a gun shop. I work at an ER in Alabama. I work as a part-time deputy in Mississippi. I teach on the road for myself and for the state. I do something else. Oh, I just got hired as a security guard, which is ironically one of the better paying jobs. And I'm a volunteer firefighter at my county. I think that's all I do now.
Yep.
So that's kind of me in a nutshell currently. Backwards, I used to teach here tactical response with Jaeger, Jay, and the crew Tim. I've been training here specifically tactical response probably since 07, 08. Oh no, I keep looking at Andrew and I was like, man, I just met him like a year or two ago. And anyways, 07 or 08, I took my first class with Jaeger in Memphis and Tennessee, and I just kind of kept training. And somewhere along the way, they said, hey, we got a job for you doing this full time. So I've been teaching and training. I run my own company on the side, teaching and training. Taught in 4 continents on my own. Pretty heavily in the East European theater and in America. And yeah, so that's kind of me.
And one of the things that I really like about Calvin is he is an instructor who takes a lot of classes.
Yeah,
That makes a
yeah.
huge difference. And you guys who take lots of classes from lots of different people, you know what I'm talking about. So why don't we get into what does it mean for what dimension of training do you have?
Yeah, so I don't know where to start with the premise of this. Several years ago, many years ago, over 10 years ago, I had this crazy thought in my head, and I was like, man, like there's different dimensions of training, right? And so if you think of the world, whether it's 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional, 10-dimensional, whatever, like metaphysics, right? If you were to like approach training, let's just say gun training, shooting, as an example, and there's like half dimensions like in between. I'm not gonna get too crazy. So like one-dimensional training, I think a lot of people start off with, especially with like handgun training, and thinking in their mind they're prepared for like, shootings, gunfighting, self-defense, whatever it may be. Is they say, hey, I'm gonna shoot, like buy this gun at the gun shop, and I'm gonna shoot this gun at a paper plate or shotgun shells or clay targets or something thrown out in the dirt, and they say, yeah, I'm a pretty good shot, and I'm ready, and boom, that's it. And so I think that's like one dimensional, and it's represented by everything, like the little pieces that you put in, anything from the target itself, and I'll give examples of that, to how you think, and then therefore how you prepare yourself, and to a point how you see yourself in the paradigm of what you believe you're capable of, even though you've never tested it in a training environment, or maybe not even the real world, or vice versa. Um, and so
And it's usually stuff that they themselves invented, like came up with in their brain.
yes, that's another thought I have about how when everyone prepares for like the fights that they know they're gonna win. Like no, they're always the victor. Like we never set ourselves up believing we're gonna lose because our ego says, I can't lose. And I think that's another danger, and that kind of factors into how they end up training.
Yeah, I always call it they imagine the best case scenario.
Yes, it's like the best case, and sometimes it doesn't. It's not plausible, probable, practical, or probable. It's almost fucking retarded, but that's okay. Some of us are just wired like that. So yeah, absolutely. But we're always a knight in shining armor. We always win. We're always the American story of being the victor. And the reality is that's probably not true. We're probably gonna lose somehow, in some shape, form, or fashion, right? Whether it's legally or mentally or physically. So death or serious bodily injury follows us, criminal charges or lawsuits, and an accumulation of all those things crushing us, right? All because problem number one, we failed to win the fight, maybe, or problem number two, everything else. Anyway, so back to dimensions of training. The reason why I think of them as dimensions, James thought of it when I first presented this to him. Like, hey man, what do you think of this? I remember it was a road trip. We were heading east because we're heading toward Nashville. I don't know where we were going, but toward that direction. So probably toward Atlanta, back in like 2015 maybe. And he said, no, I think of training as like stair steps. Like step number one, you're here. And step number two, you're here. And then maybe you finally decide to carry a gun, and then you get training. And so it's this gradual steps of training. And I understood what he was saying because I've heard it before from him and other guys. And it's very interesting because I felt like I failed to explain it well. Yeah, because I'm like, yeah, there's steps, but then there's also like worlds that end up colliding, and they're all interchange and interface. It's like the Venn diagram. Like all these circles kind of circle around, and they all like kind of smash right here and kind of in the middle, and then you're like, oh, it's like this and this and this and this and this. And James Wood, and I'm going to refer to James because he was a big influence, obviously, on how I think and where we approach training from. And he said this. He was like, when you're a a shooting instructor for self-defense for fighting, you kind of have to be all these things. It's like you got to be a priest, you got to be a psychologist, you got to be a fighter, you got to be a gunsmith, you got to be a man of your word, a warrior, and the list kept going on. And he understood it obviously, but when I approached it from a skill standpoint or tactic standpoint, it was a little disconnect between the two of us. Anyways, long story longer is the dimensions of training, right? So like one-dimensional training, where I think most people kind of reside at, is they buy that gun, they shoot at some tin cans or whatever out in their backyard, and they're like, bam, I'm ready for the streets, man. I'm ready to go kill, and I'm ready to go defend my home and take back America. And it's far from the truth, right? Like even the targets that they are aiming at, they're not even humanoid shaped. That's what I mean by one-dimensional. Like until we get a more realistic type target up there, then it in itself represents very one-dimensional thinking. There's literally no face to it. There's no cross section to it. Until you're shooting at a 3D target, whether it's a human being or even one of those 3D targets that we have now. We have the technology. You don't really know how them bullets just physically go through those things. We always shoot at best paper cardboard targets in the shape of a human, maybe with a mean face and of a certain race, color, or creed, holding a wheel gun or a pair of sunglasses or some shit. And
even that in itself, in the sense of fighting, self-defense, that's just the shooting part.
Yes, just the visual cue.
That little part where you press the trigger.
Correct. Yep, such a small part, but it plays into our psyche. We were talking about how, like, countries like Germany, outlaw like humanoid targets, and that's part of it. Is like, hey, we're not here to represent. We're shooting at people. We're target shooting as a sport. Strictly, and we're not shooting people, and so they outlaw those
shooting weird polygons.
Yeah, polygon-shaped humans, square people, right? Like big blockhead.
Triangles are coming.
Yeah, look at his eyes; they're like rectangles. Oh no, that one's got squinty ones. Like
shoot him in the A zone.
Shoot the letters. And then, so you may graduate to a different target, right? Like and it just goes on and on. And there's some of that because mentally, like, we physically see those targets as representations. And I think the closer you get to those representations, the more your brain starts to say, hey, this is what I need to see.
Yeah, have you ever read like on killing or on combat?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, that was
but
something
yes.
he talked about was and I can't verify how true any of it is or anything, but they talked about how uh, in combat soldiers were more likely to actually shoot at people if they had shot at humanoid shaped targets, and they did even better when they did some sort of video
Yep.
type thing or force on force. When guys are doing a lot of force on force and winning scenarios consistently, they dominate gunfights.
Yeah, because it builds a positive representation in the mind, right, or in repetition. Um, we begin to correlate more and more, I guess, to a point where we're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right word in that context, but
Have you ever experienced for yourself or with a student when they have a dream that they have to shoot someone and their gun doesn't work or the bullets don't work on them?
yes,
And
I've been that guy.
did the dream ever change where it worked?
I never had the dream again, but I've had it twice, or at least twice. Like I'm standing here with a Glock 27. I don't know why it was a 40 cal, but it was a Glock 27. I don't even own a Glock 27. But I remember looking at it and it's a Glock 27, and this dude's pointing a hunting rifle at me, and I'm like pulling the trigger and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I've seen with people, because I've talked to a lot of people about this, and they say that they have this dream where their gun doesn't work or they shoot and it does nothing to them. And I've had that too. But then after completing force on force training or being in a real gunfight, then their gun works. For me, it was after like my first actual gunfights. Then in my dreams, I was like unstoppable. Now that also plays into the fact too that my gunfights were really easy. So I imagine if you go through a traumatic one and you lose, or something bad happens, not obviously if you die you can't have dreams anymore, but it doesn't play out well,
Right.
you count it as a failure,
Right.
then that dream would probably be different. But I kind of think that plays into it too, into the dimensions, because like Casey Loftus, I was talking about this on a video, and he like called me right away because he was like, dude, I used to have a dream my gun didn't work, but then I took the fight, force on force training, entering a new dimension of training.
Yeah.
And then in his dreams his gun worked.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think somehow, I'm not a brainiologist, but I bet that factors into your subconscious and how your psyche works, and all that reinforcement, and especially positive reinforcement of contesting your ability / your confidence level.
Yeah.
Definitely factors in, and in that dream somewhere in your sleep mode, like I'm sure somehow it factors in on how the outcome becomes. And there, it's like the whole thing. Like it's hard for us to do something if we haven't seen it in our minds, us doing it.
Right.
It's just, that's
The body cannot go where the mind has not been.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So there's a lot of that, consciously and unconsciously. I think mostly unconsciously, I'm sure. And I think training has a big part of that. And when you look at those dimensions of training, like that's how you need to approach it. So like a half dimension of training is maybe in your mind, you're like, whatever the motivation is, you're like, I bought a gun at the gun shop, and he told me to buy this 5-shot revolver, probably a 442 Performance Center. That's a different one.
642.
642. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
642.
didn't get the black one.
Yeah.
I got that sweet
the sweet silver one. Yeah.
fucking piece of shit
Well,
overrun.
well, I don't know. Might just need some break-in period, man. Working for here.
Okay, so
sorry.
half dimension.
Yeah, so maybe like, I talk about like somewhere in between, there might be a half step, and like a half dimension would be like you buy the gun and you throw it in your sock drawer, or maybe you go to the range one time, or maybe you just click the damn thing a few times and you're like, all right, I'm better prepared. I'm ready for this.
Yeah, I've satisfied that need.
Yes, I've satiated that need. I've got my lucky rabbit's foot, and but in your mind, you're like the winner again, right? You're like, I don't want to admit that I get my ass kicked and some dude's gonna snatch that gun, pistol whip me in the face, and try to pull the trigger, but it doesn't work because it's a 642 Performance Center, and so they beat me to death with it, right?
Or another thing, unconscious incompetence is a phrase. They're not even
absolutely.
aware that how bad they're not fucking prepared.
Correct. You just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
The whole ignorance thing, right?
Because like everyone watching is like, yeah, what the fuck? I've been trying to get my friend to come to class because they've seen it. They've seen the light in the sense that they're like, oh, dude, like I learned so much in it, and it like gave me the confidence to carry every day. And I try to get Joe to go to class with me, but he won't. And the one of the big things that we talked about before is like in Joe's mind that there's no reason to go to a class.
Right. I don't need that.
Yeah.
I've been shooting all my life, right? something like that.
Yep.
And that's usually a one-dimensional shooter because he's like, I've been shooting all my life. See, give me that gun. Pow! Hit that can at 10 feet. Perfect. Ready for the streets.
It's not that fast though.
yeah. It's probably gonna take a little longer, and it's probably gonna go low left on the first 2 rounds because I haven't shot the gun before. The sights are off. Pow. Yeah, pow! And then it's a miss, and then he's gonna make it up on the second one.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally. One-dimensional, half-dimension, and like 1.5 dimension. Maybe you're like, oh, okay, I need to shoot like a bullseye, maybe, and start scoring a target, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe I need to get that B-27 silhouette. It's kind of a humanoid shape, but kind of like a hybrid target. It's got a humanoid.
Yeah.
And it's got a circle on there.
They'll consider the distance and the speed a little bit.
Correct.
Yeah.
Maybe consider some speed, distance. But everything's also always run on a square line, a straight line.
Yep.
At the range. Like 1.5 dimensions. Like it's a square line. Like you're not, God forbid, like you don't raise your hand and show me fingers after you've done your string of shots, whether you're in a class or whatever. And what do they say, jazz hands, which is cool. Jazz hands. I'm cool with that. Safety, I get it. But you're too afraid of even like stepping off the line from your partner or the person beside you, if you ever even in a class. That's like the extreme end of 1.5 dimensional training because you're doing the same thing, right? It's what Jaeger would say, marksmanship masturbation. I'm just here putting holes in a piece of paper and feeling good about myself because I can finally do that, and then still believe that I'm ready. And then it's like, okay, what other training have you done? Nothing, because there's nothing else that matters.
Mm-hmm.
In our mind, we're just here to put holes in a piece of paper. It's therapeutic. I feel good, and that's that 1.5 dimensions. Like, because 2-dimensional training, now we start to like physically break you out of like those concrete blocks that you're sitting in. Like now, we say, hey, the phrase is like, we keep telling you, like, there's no such thing as really a stance. Because I don't know where your feet are going to be when you're in your gunfight or you're shooting. So you may be like half foot in the air, half foot like falling on the ground or something crazy, cracking off a round. What stance are you in?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck if I know. Halfway to the ground. But like 2-dimensionals, like we're starting to at least shift the line a little bit, like physically. Our targets may be definitely humanoid shaped, and we're definitive, like not center of mass, but it's like in the heart box or the brain box. So we're actually trying to make you picture organs that we need those bullets to go into, or that knife blade, or whatever it is. Because, essentially you're a surgeon, and you're going to have to say, hey, I have to put these bullets right in that spot. So your mind's eye has to see that, and then now we need to start incorporating the world.
And when you do make those hits, you mentally are like, it had this effect on him.
Yes. Yeah, that I saw myself making that shot happen. Mm-hmm. Again, picturing it before we end up doing it, right? I can't go until it goes.
So what, like, does like fighting pistol represent, like, if they only did fighting pistol, would that be kind of like entering 2-dimensional?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're starting to hit 2-dimensional training when you hit like fighting pistol, and it's not a snag to fighting pistol.
No, it's just
it's a great class.
Yeah, that's why James wanted that to be people's first
your
class.
first one.
I think fighting pistol does a little bit more. It does a lot more because it's not a chain back class, like on the firing line, unload your guns. Like it's like, hey, it's a hot range. You get to do cool stuff.
Yep.
You get competent with your gun, confident, and then there's drills in there that I believe like do a lot for the mindset.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Like contact shots on your back. Moving stuff like that. I think that also kind of leads more, like I'd say like 2.5.
Absolutely. Well, the reason why I wouldn't paste it yet at 2.5 is because 2.5, and maybe it starts to enter the 2.5 world, like it's an intro, but I definitely don't put it yet in the 2.5 because 2.5 is like the extremist of training. Like we're at least shooting at 3-sided berms, maybe 4-sided.
Yeah.
Like we can live fire pretty much anywhere within 270 and in, or 360 and in if possible. And the reason for that is the world is 360 degrees,
right?
720, or whatever the hell, everybody keeps adding numbers to it. But you get the idea when I say 360, and that's why fighting pistol, I wouldn't throw all the way 2.5. And the reason is because we still have some organization
still consigned to a berm.
Yeah, we still go to a berm to load, unload, make sure that everybody's cool, and it's an easy transition. Though.
Yeah.
It's a good transitionary phase.
It's one where it's like you will see dudes in that class that are fucking great shooters.
Yes.
And dudes and ladies and that they're like brand new and they're like it's stuck, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
but they're able to make it through it, and they feel
Yes.
fucking great at the end of
Yes.
it. Yeah.
And it's not one dimensional, 1.5 like a lot of other classes are.
Yeah.
Definitely 1.5 because it's not, so stringent. I won't say on safety. It's that's not the word. It's
The round counts.
the round count's different.
Technique.
The techniques, the tactics.
Yeah.
What you end up doing, the mindset definitely is different.
Yeah.
But just the not social FOPO. What's the word? Kind of the
Culture of it.
the range etiquette
Yeah.
is different. Think about like all the training classes you ever go to, like the best ones available to most civilians, law enforcement, and most of the basic military. It's on a line, ready on the right, ready on the left. All right, you step forward, get in line with your, on your dude on your right, and you're like, everyone's got to be uniformed, and you go through the drill like shoot 5, boom, 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 and then
Yeah.
raise your hand, raise your hand if you need help and shit like
Yeah.
that.
Jay and I were talking about a couple years ago, and it was like he was like, yeah, I don't like them counting, and so now I came to a conclusion. Maybe he said it first, but it was like I just tell him to when you're shooting at the heart, give a burst.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's like more than 3,
Yeah.
less than 10,
Less than
hopefully,
10.
because
If you're gonna shoot 10, shoot really fast.
well, it's
and
like,
accurately. Shoot really
I want you to
really
get
fast.
more reps on the drill than I
Yeah.
want you to shoot a lot
Yeah.
every drill, But it was like I'm not worried about. I want you to shoot till you feel like you stopped that guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And other thing, like from a mindset, thinking about kind of that thought about why we focus on this particular part of a drill, not the shooting part. It's not because the shooting's not important.
Yeah.
It's probably the least important once you start pressing the trigger. It's everything else to your decision to get up to the shooting and what you're going to do during the shooting and after the shooting.
Yeah.
Like, physically, not to be shot, to seek cover, protect yourself, protect your family, etc.
It's also that, like I have skills classes, but I'm also like, dude, everyone's doing skills classes,
Yeah. No,
So it's like I do them because like some of my students only go to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well,
we gotta build skill.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't talk about all this other stuff, so I'll just put that all in this one day,
And other instructors that you come across, like all 30 years, I remember asking Andy Stanford, who may have a class still every now and then. If you don't know who Andy Stafford is, you're wrong. You need to go look him up. You need to go read his books. He's got several good ones. Surgical speed shooting is probably the most famous one. But he would talk about it. He had several different classes. And surgical speed shooting, which is the only one I've ever really taken from him, is the most popular one and was the most popular one that he ever sold. It was a skills-based class. While all his other classes, the tactics classes, things like that, were he would sell there once in a while. But
Right.
it's usually a skill base that people would always go toward. And it kind of goes back to that thought, like, is that enough? And I don't think it is. And here's where capitalism, and I'm not against capitalism by any means. Capitalism, give the customer what they want. That don't mean that's what they need.
Exactly. Yep.
And that's constantly what we want to do, and we think we need is when you go out there, look cool, shoot a bunch of bullets, pre-holster real fast, draw real fast, and shoot your sub ones, and then boom, you're ready for your gunfight. I'm like, dude, that dude's about to beat your face in with a fucking rock.
Yeah, it's like I got a video. Don't buy 300 blackout. I don't care if you buy it, but
Yeah.
I have a ton of people that now comment like, "Oh, this aged like milk, and you should delete this because 300 black ammo
Yeah.
price." And I'm like, and I just comment back, "All right, what's the last Force on Force class you took? What's the last
Yeah.
medical class you took?"
No, and they'll tell you what.
They don't respond,
Yeah,
man.
to them it's not relevant. They're like, it's apples and oranges. It doesn't matter.
Well,
like,
again, in their brain,
yeah,
good gun,
Yep.
quality gun. It's even to the point where I've posted videos about user error malfunctions on pistol,
I believe
AK,
it, yep.
AR-15, and people will say it doesn't happen when you buy a quality gun.
Yeah. Except it's user error.
They're like, oh, okay. You don't fucking screw up putting the
Yeah.
mag in wrong
I do
when
it all
it's
the
a
time.
quality
Well, not all
gun?
the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. I thought that gun I saw that dude do it too was quality. My bad.
Yeah. Daniel Defense, what piece of shit. No, it's probably actually true. Or that was it Smith & Wesson 642 Performance Center. Yeah, what piece of shit.
He keeps saying that because that's what I just got, and it fucking is
Yeah,
fucking
we'll
up.
reset a fucking trigger. Like, damn, it's more
Yeah.
expensive than a cheap one.
My trigger reset is me going bang,
And then you
click,
gotta like push it forward.
and then press it again.
Dude, okay, complete side note, but like 10 minutes ago, another Smith & Wesson that I put my hands on doesn't work. And I
Yeah,
don't know what
it's
the hell happened.
Calvin's fault. He's
It's
cursed.
probably my fault, yeah.
He's cursed.
And that's a good one. It's a Model 66 with the like firing pin still on the hammer, old school. It's Tim's gun, so I'll just
Okay,
take
so
Oh, sorry.
so what's a 2.5 dimensional
So
training?
2.5 dimensions of training is the maximum amount of training that you're going to get. So when we say training, it kind of represents several things. It's got to be safe enough that it's repeatable. Like training by definition, somehow in its definition, it's not my definition. This is what I've learned over the years. It's like why judo was invented. Judo was invented so you can like slam people on the ground, have specific techniques taught to do it quote unquote safely, versus old school like ninjutsu where you would like throw a dude off a horse and drop him on his head and break his neck because he was trying to kill you with a sword or something crazy. It wasn't very repeatable.
Right.
You know, because you'd run out of training partners after like the first night because you killed half the people if you could, and if you didn't, you died. So it's like, yeah, not very repeatable.
Like
so,
the best training possible is to literally get in gunfights.
yes, and surviving them,
Yeah.
and getting those lessons, and then moving forward.
And, yeah, but then you'd have to move forward against better adversaries.
Yes,
Because the other thing is, what is the word? Survivor's bias.
yeah, it's very true. Superman effect, right?
Yeah.
We get to that effect and we're just like, oh no, I'm super great.
Yeah.
And we
That's
gotta
why
get humbled.
I like admitting the gunfights I was in. I was only in a couple. They were super easy.
Yeah.
Probably
Probably because you train really hard.
Fucking the fight.
Yeah.
Way more stressful.
Oh yeah.
Way more. And literally, it's because I didn't want to look stupid more than anything.
That's a lot of it.
You know?
We don't want to look dumb in front of people.
Yeah.
That's
The gunfight was easy. Is when I didn't want to look stupid by bleeding to death. I just got down behind that big thing I was behind, and let the machine gun shoot,
Dude, yeah, don't make my noise and do the same thing. I get it. Like, I can't see them. Fucking who cares? Just shoot that way. You're right. This ammo's too fucking heavy.
Don't make us use more taxpayer dollars. It'll get ugly.
Yeah. Somehow it always is funded by taxpayer money. I don't care what country you're in. Somehow we paid for it.
No, bro, it's not even. We'll get into it.
Yeah,
they invent money. It's not real.
Oh, yeah, well.
Our money is bullshit. But anyways,
totally have to mention. Yeah. So 2.5 is and then this is why another training, repeatable, purposeful, and to a point consistency. Like there's got to be consistent in techniques, the skill part, and you're building towards something, toward a goal. And at the same time, this is what I consider the 4 Ps: plausible, practical, probable, and possible. So like those are the 3 events, and it's got to be practical training. Just kind of sum it up, right? What are the things that are going to happen, and what are the things we should be training ourselves toward? So if that's the case, and your training is represent that, right? So could aliens come off a space shuttle or spaceship and invade Earth? Absolutely. Is it very probable? And the answer is probably not. So you need to like gear more toward the rules and not the fucking exceptions. That's another problem I keep coming across in the training world, because they're like, oh, this one time, this one dude that New York City did this. I'm like, yeah. How about the other 200 fucking thousand times it happened the complete opposite, and you don't practice for that, Hence one-dimensional training. Like, when's the last time like a tin can shot at you?
Yeah.
Probably never. And so, because if they did, all the soda can manufacturers would get fucking sued. But, that's why you need to do force-on-force training. So the dimensions part of training is incorporating all those other pieces.
Yeah.
So force-on-force, making decisions, as well as force-on-force using testing skill. Kind of talking about your upcoming class coming up, the Proving Grounds, right?
Yep.
Which you need to check out, Mr. Andrew, is... it's a good brain development because it takes skills that we learn at select schools and teachers and instructors in the shooting world, combat world, and incorporating in force on force. Yeah.
So because the fight, attack, response, awesome class.
Yeah.
But it's a decision-making class where the bad guys are not trying to fucking burn you down. They're trying to make you make decisions and teach you lessons every time they shoot you. And so they're actually holding back because there's enough shit going on. These problems are hard enough as is.
Right.
So Proving Grounds is more like all those drills you would do on paper, we're going to do them against each other.
Yeah.
Like
a hardware check versus a software check.
Yeah, because okay, you're really great at shooting. However, you're really great at shooting when the conditions are that way.
Yep.
And you may be able to shoot when you're tired, and you can do push-ups and shoot. All right, can you shoot when that guy's about to shoot you?
Yep.
So in force on force, like all those drills you would do, we're just going to do them against each other.
Yep.
And I think it validates it too.
Yep. Absolutely. It checks whether or not you're because as Craig Douglas says, like your training, your skill level has to be pressure tested, right? It's got to be put under some measurable amount of pressure.
Yeah.
To see if it works in similar conditions. Reed Hendricks said this a long time ago. Says things remembered under learned under a stressful condition or recalled under a stressful condition. And that stress has to be, in my opinion, kind of correlated. And like when people say like a shot timer is stressful, I'm like, yeah, a shot timer is stressful. The difference is it's not really correlative, in my opinion, to a lot of stress. Yeah, time is there, but when someone's beating your face in
Yeah.
or shooting at you and you feel helpless or you get impacted by those things, that's a different stress, and time does matter.
Yeah. Like if I lose right now, that guy's gonna go stab my kid.
Stab a kid, do all sorts of horrible things.
And on a side
people
note, a
No,
football
absolutely.
player,
Yeah.
that's stressful because that's his career. That's
Yeah.
that's his livelihood. A competitive shooter, and if
His ego.
he loses, yeah, ego is one. But if he loses, also like if he can't pay his bills, like that does matter. It's still not the same as someone stabbing your
Right.
kid, but it is
Immediate
impactful.
versus chronic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One's immediate short term can kill you in your life, and the other one's like can affect your life.
Yeah.
Well, they both can affect your life, but this one is like may put food on your table.
Yeah.
Ego thing, so there's a whole bunch of things. But again, the dimensions has to, and everything's like connected. It's like the butterfly effect in reverse, right? Like everything touches. So like, not in a weird way, but like, you go through that and you're like, hey, if you look at just the force continuum, right? Force of presence. And if you look like food, you will be eaten. So if you go out and you fail that first test, then the rest of it is going to escalate from there, theoretically, right? If you look at it linearly. Well, somewhere in there is going to be other skills besides shooting, like deadly force. Like even in deadly force, there's beating somebody to death, using improvised weapons like a hammer, stabbing somebody, running somebody over. And I'm not saying
Choking them.
choking them. Like I don't know if you need to take classes on those. You should, but that's all you've prepared for is deadly force. If all you have is a gun, right? And then somewhere below that, you have the other things. Physical fitness, running away, getting out from an entanglement or fucked up gunfight or whatever it is, a fucked up the FUT, right? Fucked up tangle, as Craig would say, like just accessing your gun. So knowing some hand skills, knowing some verbal skills, all those tie in, and you can't say they're completely detached from shooting / gunfighting for self-defense. And that's the dimensional part.
Is like Sonny talks about it, and he's like, because he talks about being able to strike, being able to move, fitness, and he also has a class on verbal de-escalation, and like that. Oh my god, that class is awesome. I mean, I've only done some of the scenarios. I'm gonna take it for real here in a couple months, but one of the things he talks about is like if all of you have is your gun, then that's all you use. You know, so now you're gonna kill someone over something you could have handled with your
mouth.
brain and your mouth, or maybe you couldn't, but you could have handled it with your hands if you had put the time in.
Yeah, if you have the options, but you don't have the options if you don't think of the options because you've never vested in the options.
Yeah. And again, it's not real in someone's brain,
right?
Most of the time because they're a half-dimensional or a single-dimensional,
absolutely,
or even 2.5 two-dimensional.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's because like we always, humans are like to a point they're. I won't say humans in general, but a lot of people are very singular focus.
Yes.
And one step linear. It's like the whole paper, rock, scissors.
Yeah.
This beats this, therefore this beats this. It's like gun beats knife. Knife beats bat.
Yeah.
Bat beats hands, and then it's like this, therefore then this, and that's not how the mathematical equation really ever works in the real world.
Yeah, and because you were talking about too that James said it was more like a stairs.
Yeah, the stairs on how we learn and progress.
I think it's stairs and probably the direction you should go. As far as like, hey, dude, get a medical class, get a gun class,
absolutely.
get a force on force class right now, and then. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff you gotta think about.
Yeah, so it's like every time you take a step, it goes to like a floor, and then there are other steps that intersect at those floors. It's like the weird painting where like the infinite steps.
Yeah.
And they go up, and then they all like
they turn upside down and shit. Yeah.
And that's the dimensions part, and you have to kind of see that whole thing. You're like, well, I may segue off of this, like this conversation, and walk down the steps or walk back up, but I have to learn all the things: medical, driving, financial advice, social advice, whatever it is to meet, what's your end goal? And you say, well, to live, okay, to live a good life. Then you start breaking it down philosophically, and then you break down the things you can control and things you can't control, and the things I can't prepare myself for, the things I can get training for. If your end goal is like we used to talk about the two sides of the tactical coin, right? Like you got to know how to put holes in people, and you got to know how to patch holes in people. And at the end of the day, it's about saving someone's life, right? Whether it's through taking a bad person's life if you need to, or just physically save them. Because if that good guy dies because you didn't know how to plug a hole, that's just as shitty, right? That's on you. Anyways, that's,
So the one time when I was back when I would RSO at the range I teach at, there was a guy. He was complaining about ammo prices, and I was like, "Dude, you don't even take classes. Don't complain to me." And he was like, "I'm hitting 1-inch targets at 100 yards. What do I need classes for?"
Right.
And I went, "Okay, put a tourniquet on your arm right now."
Yeah.
And he goes, "What?" I'm like, "Put a tourniquet on your arm." And he's like, "I don't have one." I go, okay, let me go get you one." So in the time I walked to my truck and I come back, he finally found it in his bag of stuff. And then so, of course, it takes him a minute 15 to put it on. It's wrong, pulled the wrong way, not tight enough. And I go, "So check this out. Like, if you needed that right now, you would bleed to death.
Right.
But you're telling me you don't need training."
Right. No,
and that's that one-dimensional guy, right?
Correct. Very, very one-dimensional.
Yeah, and he's a veteran, and he's not a bad guy. It's just he's
can be
oblivious to the rest of it. You know?
Absolutely. They don't see that simple connection. Like if you believe in God, like God and everybody else doesn't care how you die. The end result's the same. You die, whether it's slow or whether it's fast, whether it's honorable, whether it's dishonorable. The key thing is, what do I have a choice in? What do I have some say in? Because you can do everything right and still lose, right? So what do I have some choice, some determination on? If I step outside and God throws a lightning bolt at me and it strikes me and I'm dead, there's fuck all else I can do. Some dude walking up to you, sticking a gun in your face, you might have some say in how this plays out and what can happen. If your kid, God forbid, falls off the jungle gym and smacks their head, you have some say in what can go from here. You can stand there, watch a kid bleed to death, or and just hope that something happens, or you can proactively not waste that time, like the shot timer's on, and start making your decisions, start taking action, because you've preloaded things that you can relate to and be able, i.e., you train for, to prepare yourself. Because at the end of the day, it's about saving someone's life, right? To a point, whether it's yours or somebody else, to better your life, right? That's what safety is about. Prolong your life, make your life quality better. Which is direct correlation with effective training, right? Because they intersect. That, like, if the safest training in the world is probably the shittiest training in the world.
Yep.
Right? Because there's no lessons in safety. But the most extremist of training, dangerous training, doesn't mean it's unsafe. Just maybe less safe.
Yeah. I made this graph, and it's basically like, if you talk about safety, you have incompetent and you have competent. And so incompetent, there's negligent, which is like you have an ND.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not saying you had an ND or a piece of shit. It's saying that happened. You acted in this way. So you have an ND and basically anything around that. Okay.
Yeah.
Or you're violating the 4 safety rules without even realizing it. Okay.
Yeah. Unconsciously incompetent.
But if you're only violating one at a time, nothing bad is probably going to happen. Right. So that's an incompetent negligence. Then there's incompetent safe, but safe, right? So a guy who has to unload his gun to be safe with it, like just not able to pick up a gun that's loaded and be like, okay, what's next? So having to do stuff other than the 4 safety rules to be safe is incompetent safe gun handling. Then there's competent gun handling. Now, so competent safe gun handling is just following the 4 rules and not adding anything to it. So if you can do anything you want, as long as those 4 are being followed, you're good.
Yeah.
Then there's competent dangerous gun handling.
Yeah.
That's where you're breaking the 4 rules, preferably not all of them at once,
right?
Because that will lead to negligence.
Yeah, it's going to end the same result.
But then again, hey, if I don't shoot through my bicep to get this dude right here is going to lead to me dying right now, I'll go ahead and shoot through my bicep because I can sacrifice that for my life. Okay, so in theory, you can break all 4 at once.
Sure.
But just basically thinking about if there is, if following the 4 safety rules will lead to an unacceptable outcome, so you break it knowing you're breaking it, competently breaking it, and then you get your acceptable outcome, that would be dangerous gun handling. Yes. And that is competent.
Yes.
So, all right. what is a 2.5 dimensional? It's like, how do we define
Oh
that?
yeah, so sorry, 2.5 dimension of training, and this is where the dimensions start to collide.
Yeah.
Because once you've reached that point and take enough classes, like the one Tactical Response offers, like Miss Andrew offers, like I offer, and then there's a lot of other people, great instructors, good names, good curriculums, but they never approach 2.5. And I'll explain the criteria what I believe it needs to meet. The first one is force on force style type training. Is force on force training takes out all the live fire stuff, and I'm not going to go into like combining the two because that's another issue. But let's say it's force on force, and it tests to the ability, quote unquote, safely, as safe as we can, reasonably, software and hardware skills. So your ninja skills plus your ability to process, to think, to make decisions, and that's a huge paradigm, I think, because you're creating a Rolodex of scenarios and events in your mind, and things that worked and didn't work the times you tried it, and you get to live and you get to learn from it and move on. The second 2.5 dimension of training is live fire. So this is contextually in gunfighting for gunfighting combat type scenarios, right, or situations. So live fire 2.5 dimension is that 360 berm, or at least a 270, where as much of our physical environment is in play, that there are people downrange. Okay, like your fellow teammate, fellow student, fellow whatever.
Yeah.
And this is
like you fucking up has real life
yes,
consequences.
absolutely. It's just like in force on force. If you bring a live gun in there and you fuck up and someone gets shot accidentally, it's outside of insurance. It's the same fucking thing as at the range.
Yeah.
You know, even if that dude was in one-dimensional training, he's just plinking at fucking cans and shoots himself or shoots somebody else. The same result happens, right? Someone got shot with real consequences to their life. So in 2.5 dimensional training, live fire, besides the environment being as open as possible, people are moving. People will 100% be downrange. I mean, think about your context of your environment, like of where you may employ these skills or probably employ these skills. Like 99% of the time, 99 people don't need to be shot or have a gun pointed at them, and one person does.
Yep.
And all 99 ain't gonna be, you know, like when I call the 4 safety rules, like rule number 4, you know, I say be sure of your target and what is before, what is beside, and what is beyond it. You know, the 3 B's of where those people are going to be, because that's what happens in the real world. It doesn't matter if it's civilian, military, or police, pretty much anywhere in the world. Okay, in all those contexts, there's usually 1 or 1,000 that don't need to be shot, killed, stabbed, beaten, or run over, or bombed, and or 999 of them, and there's 1 that does. And sometimes the other way around, but ideally we try not to kill that one, right? So 2.5 dimensional training, there's got to be movement. I won't say dynamic movement, but there's got to be movement.
Ranger movement.
Yeah. And it's got ranger movement. Yes. Is it stealthy or is it loud? I can't tell. Essentially, it's got to fit the 3 criteria: shoot, move, communicate.
Yeah.
Right. And it could be you communicating to your family member. It could be you communicating to a teammate. It could be you communicating to the bad guy. But it's got to be communication. It's got to be 2 directions, or maybe 3 directions, or 5 directions. It's got to be communication, right? Because what's combat? It represents like 2 big C's, right? Chaotic and confusing. As soon as it starts, like no one knows what the fuck's going on. I was just here enjoying my Happy Meal and texting on my phone or having chow or watching that sector right there, and fucking the artillery starts dropping and machine guns start going off, and I don't know what the fuck's going on. Whatever your context is, and those 2 C's started off, and so your training environment on the live fire side has to incorporate part of that in the communication side. It's got to incorporate that on the movement side. How do I move? What am I moving for? What's more important, not to get shot, stab, beaten, or run over, or shoot the bad guy? And so your movement probably should incorporate both of those things: not getting shot, stab, beaten, or run over, and shooting that bad guy, or capturing, or whatever. And the third one is shoot, move. Well, I already talked about shooting. So basic marksmanship 101. And what do you think is the easiest one of all those things?
Is the shooting.
Is the shooting. Is because not just because that's all we've trained to that point, probably by the time you find a 2.5 dimensional class, but it's the easiest skill to actually learn under stress, right? If you think about it, shooting is like the guys who keep going to the same class over and over and over and over again to get a sub 1 second draw. And I'm not a sub 1 second draw by any means. I'm slow, old, fat, and just fucking tired.
Oh, you're not old.
Yeah, I'm getting old.
I don't think you're that fat either.
Yeah, I'm getting old fat. I ate all that ice cream. But you get to this point and you're like, that's all the skill you've ever learned. When was the last time you went to a jiu-jitsu gym? When was the last time you ran 100 yards?
Yeah.
You know, when was the last time you trained a tourniquet? You know,
Yeah.
put it on in 20 seconds, get access to. When was the last time you did something besides, did the 5.55 drill? If you fucking go to 5 yards, shoot 5 rounds from the holster in 5 seconds at a fucking playing card and tell me that you're training, I think you're fucking wrong. Well, you're not wrong, but that's definitely so one-dimensional.
Yeah.
I don't even know where the fuck you are, because there's so much other shit you need to be doing.
Yeah.
Talk with your family members, talk with yourself, make peace with your God. You know, whatever it is, prepare yourself for not just fighting, not just winning, but perhaps losing, including your life. You know, like, you need to prepare your shit and set yourself up and your family for success.
Even if you're bleeding, you're still gonna do better if you know you have a life insurance policy and a will sorted out. If you know that where your kids will go when that happens, if you lose, you know, like you'll perform better because now you can focus on
the task
execution.
Correct. You're focused on the task at hand, not the regrets and responsibilities that weigh you down every day, whether they know it or not. And that's the thing, right? Like, and it goes into another topic, a subject like about guys and responsible men, but like you know what your roles and responsibilities are and your regrets, but that doesn't mean everybody else in your circle or your friends or your family know about it, because you don't want to burden them with that. And that's why you got to check yourself and fucking do that stuff, including get real training, 2.5 dimensional training, whether it's force on force, as tough and as live action as you can make it. That's relatively safe, because we need you to function out in the real world still, but we need you to get as hard training as you can.
Now there's also various different types of force on force, because like, you know, Craig Douglas's ECQC is nothing like the fight.
No.
The class I'm designing right now, Proving Grounds, is nothing like the fight or ECQC.
Correct.
You know, so like there's the force on force where you're in contact with the dude, wrestling the dude, stabbing the dude, and shooting the dude.
Yes.
Yeah, there's not a lot of decision making beyond how am I going to hurt this guy next and not get me hurt.
Yeah.
The fight is more like, hey, what should I do? Should I be in this fight? Should I leave?
Right.
You know, and then you have to do 911 calls, some medical, and then Proving Grounds is basically like getting good at shooting people. You know.
Yeah.
So it's also because like, there's some people like, you know, tactical response haters that like I posted a video of us, Ashley and I, reviewing the fight, and they're like, no, you should take ECQC instead. And it's like, it's dumb fuck. That's not even the same thing.
So that's another. People are so simplistic. They boil it down. It's
one dimensional.
Very one dimensional.
Yep.
It's one dimensional force on force, and they're all split into separate categories.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know of any serious class from a serious instructor that teaches this, and I'm not saying that somebody's gonna design it, but essentially you need to be Radman suited, placed into decision making scenarios. Everyone needs to be Radman suited, because therefore you can physically strike, punch, shock knife, or sim gun shoot anything in that scenario, and you still have to be able to incorporate what the scenario is, make your decisions about it, and the actors can employ it.
Yeah.
And that's such a tough thing to do, because you need good role players. If you go into reading about force on force, Training at the Speed of Life, I think, is one of the books that's really good about talking about force on force training, and you know, all the setups and how the brain works and all that shit. But point being is, force on force has its own layers, and that's why when people say they try to correlate this class with this class, it's like, no, they all have important themes and pieces.
Yeah.
But they're all still smashed together because that's what is needed. It's not just one
thing.
Thing.
It would be great to do a class where it's the fight plus you have to punch people, stab people, shoot people, shock people, mace people.
Yeah, run them over.
You know, and they're going to go as hard as possible against you. Yes. That would be like the most all-encompassing class. But that would fucking wreck people.
Yeah, it would, especially if you did it a lot.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't get many customers.
No.
Yeah, think about it.
No one would do that.
What's the lowest selling class out there? Force on force ones. Now think about that. You have to know hand skills, jiu-jitsu skills. You have to know boxing skills.
You're gonna drive a car.
Yeah, you gotta drive a car. Maybe hit somebody. Maybe not very fast, but you know, maybe a golf cart. A golf cart his ass. You know. But point being is like, I don't know if any outside, you know, even a military.
Oh, well, you're getting pepper sprayed.
Yeah, like they sprayed you first.
And a dog attacks you. You know, but that's just it. Like you're saying, real training has to be dangerous.
Yeah, it has.
And so it's like that would be the best thing you could do. Like all that shit going on with a fucking live fire downrange drill at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, like like that's the fucking most realistic we could probably make it. You know, but that's crazy.
It's
Like,
crazy.
it'd be crazy.
There's a lot
you
of
know?
crazy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like on the, it's crazier is like when we talk about like live fire training, everyone not everyone, most people, at least in the Western world, like downrange anything past the shooting line is, like that's no go. It's unsafe.
People are like
180s.
I think opening up to it. They're not gonna say it on the internet.
Yeah, and that's probably true.
You know?
There's two types of people who I notice about downrange stuff. Usually, I'm going to use I don't know, downrange photography. Back in the day, right? Old Jay Gibson. And then certain people I noticed who never fucking said anything openly as much were usually former like spec war dudes.
Yeah,
like
SF guys.
Yeah,
like,
SF
oh yeah,
dudes.
we did that, but I'm not gonna say I did that.
And I'm not gonna say you should do it here.
Because it's another thing is you know, I did a live stream, stop being NPCs. And one of the things that makes people NPCs is they don't want to be kicked out of the tribe. It's a thing where it's like, you know, like if you've ever thought about like a goofy thing you did when you were a kid and you cringe, you're like, oh, it was so weird. Yeah. That's because your brain is saying, dude, don't be weird. They'll kick you out of the tribe and you'll get eaten by wolves, you know?
Yeah.
So that's a thing that holds people back, that holds back the whole fucking training industry. And it's also... because I have a lot of friends I've been like, dude, make YouTube videos, make a video on that, make a video with me about that, you know, and they don't want to. They say, I don't want to deal with the trolls. They don't want to.
They won't deal with their peers.
That, but also it's like they're afraid of a fucking loser on the internet who talks shit. I'll tell you what, you look at their accounts, most of the time, it's just video game shit.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah,
it's like, it really is, you know, so.
Yeah, I mean... But the people who do those things, granted, they probably should keep a DL and not do it, or not be so public, per se, because of such a... It's like, the more negative feedback I get from people who are relevant to... I won't say irrelevant, but they mean very little to what I do and to my students. It's like, okay, why should I let that command what we end up doing, right? Because this is necessary. So I do think, like, 100%, and this is a segue story, but... the first time I went downrange, or was downrange, I was in second grade at home back in Greenville, Mississippi. A drunk dude walked out the juke joint next door and started blasting bullets where me and my dad, I was helping my dad outside of his business. And middle of the night. So that's my first experience with being quote-unquote downrange. And I'm like, I didn't have a gun class.
No.
I didn't have a gun then. You know?
Were probably like, as long as it's not pointing at me, I'm okay.
Oh, I mean, it was pointed at us.
Oh, it was?
You know, it wasn't like, firing in the air. He was like pointing right at us, pow, 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 just fucking shooting. I'm holding the ladder for my dad. My dad was up there, and bullets were just...
So he was trying to shoot your dad, or what?
I don't think he was trying to, per se, shoot, maybe hit him on purpose, but he was definitely shooting at us.
Man.
So...
he should have been practicing with shotgun, shooting shotgun caps, shells more.
But, as an idea, like, that's reality.
Yeah.
Like, if you're the victim, like, no one's gonna ask you if you've been downrange before. They don't give you a questionnaire. They just fucking start shooting.
Yeah.
And then it's like, when is your first experience that you want that to happen in a quote unquote safer environment, like a training environment?
Yeah, a controlled environment.
A controlled environment, as much reasonable control as we can put.
Where they're not trying to shoot you.
Yeah, not on purpose at least. It's usually accidental, right? But it goes by, well, I don't believe in their competency level. And I'm like, and you believe the gangbangers' competency level, the number one. Number two is like, if you're the instructor, you kind of vet your students as the class goes. You know if that dude's ready or not. The question, this is what I always tell my students when they take like level 1 class from me, like a regular like rifle 1 pistol 1. I say, hey, judging from what you guys tell me about your backgrounds, your great training resumes, you all more than have enough skill to meet the prereq. You got to shoot a paper plate 10 feet. Follow the 4 firearm safety rules. The question isn't if you have the ability to commit to the skill. The question is if you're willing to. And that's what it always boils down to.
Because you're downrange?
Because you're either going to be downrange or someone's going to be reholstering a gun, and it's scary. Yeah. Or someone's going to be in front of you in the line, and you're not sure what to do with your gun. And I'm like, well, follow the 4 firearm safety rules. Fucking don't shoot anybody who don't need to be shot. Pointing a gun at.
Yeah.
And if you do need to shoot, hit a paper plate at 10 feet. That's all the skills that you really need. The problem is up here that we have institutionally boxed you in so hard that we put you in 1.5 dimensions of training at best.
Yeah, and on that note too, because everyone's trying to make shit safer.
Yeah.
The really fucking stupid part about that is like, I mean, the thing I talked about where there's incompetent gun handling and competent gun handling, and there's safe in the middle on both sides, and then there's the dangerous side that you want to be capable of getting to. The fucking stupid part about it, dude, is that like a lot of the guys that are super focused on safety don't even understand the four rules, right? To the point where I've seen them list them and forget one, or struggle. Yeah. And I'm like, and this is the thing I tell my students. I'm like, hey, you want to be my favorite student? This is what you do. Learn the four rules exactly how the fuck I say them, and be able to put a tourniquet on in 30 seconds next time I see you.
Yeah.
And if you can do those two things, you fucking did it.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
Like, I don't even give a shit how good you are at shooting. We'll work on that next.
You're right.
You know? But, like, and even in Carry Pistol 1, I'm like, I want you to learn to be a safe gun handler by learning the firearm safety rules and following them. And then I want you to be able to understand use of force, and then to be able to put on a tourniquet.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And it's a 750 round class. I didn't talk about fucking actually pressing the trigger once, you know. And so with the guys that, like, the one-dimensional guys that are super focused on safety, it's like they're interjecting other safety stuff that in the end, for the people there, makes them more afraid of screwing up.
Yes.
So it literally makes them less competent, because now they've lowered their confidence to, I don't want to get yelled at, I don't want to be the dumb guy or whatever, I don't want to hurt anyone. Whereas,
be that guy.
You know, it's like if a student screws up, breaks a safety rule, flags himself, I'm not going to start screaming at them, because that's retarded, because that's going to make them freak out. You just be like, hey, man, like, I need you to be aware of where that muzzle is. When you put that thing away, do it this way next.
Right.
You know, something like that.
Yeah.
And
build him, don't destroy him or box him into where he's kennel trained, essentially. Like, he can only function as in, sir, yes, sir kind of moment, right? Like, I need him. This leads to your other question before, right? Independent thinking.
Yeah.
And I think to a point, now I'm thinking about it, it's us. We do it.
Yeah.
We almost make our students like non-independent thinkers out in the world. And we kind of fail them because they take so many classes from other people, and they're like, I don't want you to think. I need you to just do. But I'm telling you what to do. Right now, you know. But I'm like, well, you're not going to be there in the real world, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to follow that dude. You have to make him a thinker.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. And, like, one of the things I try to tell my students is, like, don't find what works best for you. Don't even think that what I'm teaching you is best. Find what works best. You know,
for your situation,
like,
what's going on.
It could be anything. Like I asked you how you stage your tourniquet earlier today. I just want to see it. I don't even agree with it, but who cares? You know. But I like, find what works best, because like what works best for you. I've literally seen a dude be like, my wife will load my mags for me, because he couldn't fucking, like, it was an old guy. You know, I don't want to say anything negative about anyone, but it was like, but saying I'll have my wife do it because that works best for me is wrong. You can fucking suck at something, but you gotta learn to get good at it. That's my thing. It's just like, I don't allow students to say I can't about fucking anything, because when they do, they're quitting on themselves.
And what works best for you is relative usually to your opinion, or what you are the most comfortable with.
It matters for a
or
dude
laziest with
in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
It matters for a dude with one arm or one eye, you know.
Yeah.
But if it's like you're just a dude who's bad at a thing, you need to get good at the thing.
Yeah.
That's what works best for you.
That's exactly right. Like, you need to, like, the skill itself is the test.
Yeah.
Or the tactic or decision you make, that is the test, and it doesn't care about your ego or what you believe or what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
It only matters what the result becomes.
And so that question that you're talking about is when do you stop being a follower and become a independent thinker? And that's something I tried. And I need to do more of it. I think everyone needs to do more of it. But I try to be like, find what works best. I'm showing you this way, but you don't know that this is the best way till you try the other shit.
Right.
You know, and that's even a part of like James used to say it, like, go train everywhere. Like, don't just think that this is the best stuff. And that's even a thing that I do. I love going to a class that, like, I totally disagree with shit. Like, it could be put your rifle on safe while you reload it. Could be like, press this button to fucking whatever, who cares? The guys who don't like to do shooting on the move. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I want to see, because also they've been thinking about it differently than me the whole
Yep.
time. So that's kind of that's the thing that led me to sitting here today. Is I used to be like a gear queer who would look at like what's the best trigger and rail and all that stuff. And my buddy was like, "You should check out Jaeger." And Jaeger's like, "You guys are going gear, skills, maybe tactics, and no mindset. You're following the idiot's principles." And I was like, "Damn, I am." You know. So then watch more, and that's kind of what led me here. But that's the it is the be a independent thinker. What do you think leads to someone not being a follower and becoming an independent thinker?
Well, you have to recognize where you are, like, without your ego. Like, you have to, without mind, right? You kind of have to, like, get to that point and just objectively look at where you're at, what your goals practically need to be, and start inputting the things that go toward those goals. Even though they may be futile, right? Like, I go back to it, and, you can do everything right and it's still not work. It's still fuck up. Still God says no, whatever. But that doesn't mean you stop. Because if you know that that's what you need to do, like if you need to be faster on the draw, you need to be more accurate, do it. If you need to, why do you need to know how to shoot on the move? Why do you need to know how to, like, maybe move really fast, stop, plant your feet, and shoot really quick and accurately? They all fit in. There's always this another thing about people. They always think it's got to be us versus them, competitive shooters versus tactical shooters.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, like they're dimensionally intertwined.
Yeah, exactly.
They really do. And if you don't understand that, because you just suck at one side. And look, I suck at competitive shooting, especially I used to compete for fun years and years ago and loved it, but I had a couple incidences where I said, man, I've been fucking doing it wrong. And that's when I switched to like real training and not just wandering out there and shooting a stage and be like, yeah, I'm ready. I was just a little bit more ready than shooting at tin cans.
Yeah.
But I wasn't ready per se, and I'm still not ready.
Yeah.
And that's another weird thing, because this leads up to like, what is the third dimension of training? And then I'm going to say, well, real life experience. Like at the end of the day, like the problem with it being training is it's not very repeatable, right? Because you're never put in the same situation, the same time, the same events, and the same consequence per se ever. No, and number two is everything that happens is real world, real life consequence. And so, unfortunately, it's not training that we can put on the market, but it's training that happens to a lot of people, like life experience. And you either take that for a training lesson if you fight, win, survive, or you're that small percentage and you pretend it never happened.
You could put it on the market, just might go to jail for it.
Yeah. It's marketable, but not very long, right? And you might have to go.
It's not allowed.
Able but not allowed, right? Unless you're in a foreign country, no extradition and enough volunteers. But yeah, you can totally do it. I mean, that's like what's that old Robert Dahl story? Is it Robert Dahl, the short story, The Most Dangerous Game, where they go out and hunt humans? Yeah, that's totally, you can do that.
Yeah.
Just probably not in America. If you are, you might go wind up in prison.
Mutual combat's a thing.
Yeah, it used to be.
How far does that go?
Till about 1890 or something, right?
No, I mean, like, I think it's still a thing, but whatever. Well, okay, yeah, that's the third dimension of training, but hey, like,
so we max out in the commercial world at 2.5.
But the thing with that too is like, well, because I also consider like, okay, dimensions of training. It's like I need to protect myself would be like one, right?
Okay.
And this
Layers,
is totally separate than what he's saying. This is the way I visualized it when we first talked about it. So I need to be able to handle emergencies as one. Okay, so that could mean you buy a fire extinguisher. That's something a lot of people lack in. I don't have one in my car. That's a fucking problem. I've only now am I thinking about it. I should grab my phone and buy an Amazon one, But and then I need a gun. Okay, and then I need to learn how to fist fight. Right, and then there's medical. I need to learn how to use a fucking flashlight. Tactically. I need to learn how to move better. I need to all this stuff. And I think from there it like spreads out to like need a gun. Be able to shoot a gun, be able to shoot a gun fast, be able to shoot a gun while moving, be able to shoot a gun at people, be able to shoot a gun while someone's shooting at me. It's like I visualize like a bunch of fucking crazy bubbles with lines, and then,
each one of them has a step. Yeah. Each one of them has a stair step on learning those skills.
So on that note, third dimensional, are you a third dimensional person or is it third dimensional training? Because hey man, like, I know dudes who've been in
Yeah.
Combat, I've been in combat. There's things I severely lack in. So it's like, and that goes back to that survivor bias, where it's like that. I've already won my gunfights.
Sure.
The fuck are
The
you
ones
talking?
that you've already been in.
Yeah. What are you talking
What
to me
about the
about
future?
this for? Right.
Yeah.
And like, hey, fucking mortars
Yeah.
landed near me
Yeah.
somewhere. Like,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean they're good at it.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like I would, man. Like I was on the phone with someone who was asking me, like, oh, well, so what are your credentials? And I was like, oh, first I was Marine Corps infantry. You went, say no more. Marines are, and I'm like, we're talking about pistol class. Like,
Yeah.
you need to ask me
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, you need to dig a little deeper.
Yeah, like, because here's the news. Fucking the military as a whole sucks ass with pistols.
Yeah.
Hey, and with rifles too. They just won't admit it.
America's military.
They're better with rifles than pistols.
Foreign military is different because they execute people really close. So they're better with pistols. Right?
Our tactics are sound.
They work all the time. Every time. Right?
But so like is it a third dimensional student / trainee, or is it third dimensional training?
I think it's to a point. It's kind of both. It's what if you're the eternal student and you're involved in a three-dimensional event, you can still use it as training, not in the moment per se, but definitely after. Like the AAR, if you fight, win, survive, there's a lot of lessons to be learned. It's like what James also used to say. I hate a guy who's been in one gunfight because he believes every gunfight's like that.
Yep.
And then it's like when he gets to about 3 or 4 or 5, then that guy understands. Fuck, anything can happen. And it's like, oh yeah, 100% right. Like this guy over here gets obsessed about the one he survived because it's got that euphoria. He's, hopefully he's upright and functioning, and he's like, holy fuck, it's always gonna be like that. It's kind of like people who believe the Marine Corps. Marine Corps, say no more. You're a cop, say no more.
Yeah.
You're the authority of everything authority, and it's like, no, that dude's probably a dumbass. And I'm not saying you're a dumbass. It's just, you have to dig deeper to figure out, okay, what other experience does he have? It's the same idea.
Yeah.
Marine Corps, yeah, that's your one gunfight kind of guy.
Yeah.
What else has he got? Oh, okay, he's the 10 gunfight guy because he's been to all these schools, he's done all these different things in life, and he understands like what we're approaching, where we're coming from, and why he teaches what he teaches, and what the students probably need to take from that, because they have perspective.
Yeah, it's like if I could roll the dice on, am I gonna get one of the dudes I went to Afghanistan with to be next to me in a gunfight, or a dude who's trained at 5 different schools? I would want the guy who's been to 5 different schools on an average, from what I have seen.
Okay.
If I can say he's done force on force and medical, then to me he's taking it seriously. Most of the dudes I was in the Marine Corps with don't carry a gun.
Right.
So it's like they don't even take it that seriously.
Correct. So this is,
and that's not to say that we're fucking paranoid.
Yeah.
It's like we like this shit and we want to get good at it and we take it seriously. Right. That's all it is.
They're passionate about it. They believe in it.
Yeah.
They want to do it. I can't definitively say one or the other because the one factor I believe, I come across this a lot in all contexts, military, police, and in the medical field and just private sector. But you have to read pretty quick. And the reason why I can't say, well, just because that guy's been in Afghanistan, I wouldn't pick him, versus the guy who does train a lot, I would probably go with him. And there's kind of that, this is a complete segue into a whole different topic, but not intestinal, what's the word? Internal courage.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to be able to read. Yeah, you have to be able to read, like, does that dude have the balls to do what he says he's going to do and go do it? Will he follow you or you follow him into combat? Whether it's a fight on the street or whether it's some distant, faraway land, where you may get your head sawed off.
Yeah, because there is a thing of tactical tourism. A guy who just takes a bunch of classes does not practice it.
Correct.
He might carry all the stuff.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, he ain't gonna draw that gun.
Could be. Yeah, could be. I don't know. I still stick with what I said.
No.
And maybe it's because
I'm disagreeing.
Maybe it's just because I'm jaded. Because I was like,
because there's a lot of dudes out there who are trained, been there, done that, but fucking won't really do it.
Yeah.
We all know what they also did when they were there.
I just think about like when I'm restraining one of my senior Marines who's drunk, trying to kill one of my buddies, and everyone pokes their head out the barracks door and doesn't fucking help.
Right.
And it's like, hey, you know,
we need some help.
I
I need to tell you twice.
See how his face is fucking broken? You know, you want to
Yeah.
come over here and help me so I'm not next, you know?
Yep. No,
This
no.
guy's huge.
That's exactly right. And maybe half that group already has been overseas and been in firefights.
Literally was. That was right after we got back from Afghanistan.
And there you go. And it's like, will they come back? And
They're in my
actually,
platoon too.
will they do it? Man, you got that better read.
I mean, what? Well, okay, you're not gonna train the drunk guy with me.
Yeah.
But I'm supposed to rush a machine gun with you. Okay.
I don't know. You know, it's kind of weird because, I think training is a huge factor, but I've also seen heavily trained dudes at the end of the day, like, hesitate and stop. Like, they, in every field, like, they'll.
Because you need that third
Mortality.
dimension.
Yeah, you have to be able to. You that's that mindset part. You've already must have prepared yourself to accept grave bodily injury or death and consequence. You know, whatever, legal or otherwise, and mortal consequence. Whatever you're gonna do, run into a burning building, get out of fucking mortar fire, machine gun fire, rush a machine gun, whatever the fuck it is. Fisticuffs with this dude on the street, and because you could be the most heavily trained guy, like you said, and or like we're concluding, I think, and still fail to, we never rise to the occasion, right? We default not just to the level of training, but to the level of our mental fortitude, what we're willing to do. That's I think a big part that we kind of leave out. And I think that falls in the training world too, because they say, well, I don't need all that shit. I'm cool with shooting, 5 from the 5 to 5 at the 5-yard line in this fucking playing card. And I'm like, that's cool. And I'm not bashing that drill. It's not a measure by anything other than your ability to hit a playing card.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That's a decent amount of skill. That's a good amount of skill. I probably can't fucking do that. I can probably do that.
I was just thinking,
I think,
I can probably
do that. But I'm not a sub 1 second dude by any means. But I'm not saying that's to say that's the end all be all.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And it kind of goes into like what's important. Everything is important.
Yeah,
just not everything's equally important, and it's not always important all the time.
Correct.
Because that drill you're describing does not fucking matter when you get in a car accident.
Yeah.
You're I made a video and I was like, hey, see a lot of, I'm applying a tourniquet during it. So it got like 17, 18 seconds, right? Yeah. It started in my hand. Yeah. Okay. But anyways, I was like, I see a lot of videos of people doing reloads with a shot timer. I never fucking see them do it with a tourniquet, and so as I'm talking, I put it on.
I was doing a medical class years and years ago, and we're doing 30 seconds on the thingy. And the first comment I made, and James just kind of wandered in and made a comment. I said, man, if only people would putting on a tourniquet on a shot timer, it'd be way more fucking popular. And James like looked at me and he was like, that's a damn good idea. Why don't we? But he knew the answer. It's not sexy, it's not cool, it's not realistic, whatever it is.
I might make a bunch of memes about it and have like squirting blood and be like, oh, good thing you practiced reloads, dumb fuck. Yeah. While you bleed to death.
Dude, why are we even practicing reloads? Half the internet now says that no one's ever gonna fucking reload in the civilian world. It's like,
I know. It's like, one of the fucking
like it's the same fucking people. And then no one ever fucking says, yeah, you'll never be downrange. Fucking retard. Dude. Do you hear yourself?
It's one-dimensional. One-dimensional is retarded. Don't be one-dimensional.
Absolutely.
Don't be 1.5 dimensional or 2-dimensional. Like get the next,
yourself.
Yeah.
Advance yourself.
So it's like, I've done like lists of like what are the classes that you should take, and also because again, your reality is based on what you know. So any advice, like a jiu-jitsu guy, I see a lot of videos of dudes teaching disarms, and I'm like, wow, that guy sucks ass with a gun. Because I see the way they hold it at the end of the disarm. And also disarms are kind of like, okay, learn them. But I've literally... Can you turn that?
Amber alert! No, I don't know what that is. Oh, it is an amber alert.
Can you make it stop making noise?
No. It's amber.
What? Press a button on it.
Fuck, I don't know what to do.
See? There we go. Bad. Holy shit. He broke it. He touched it.
It's a Smith & Wesson. Fucking 2 in a row.
But like, I've literally had a guy tell me, like, I don't need a gun because my hands can produce a gun. from a disarm. I'm like, okay, can they produce that 25 yards? They're like, well, they have to have a good reason to shoot at. Dude, it's just not real.
He doesn't have to have a good reason.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where'd that come from. What makes you think he needs a good reason?
But it's just not real in his brain. So
Yeah.
even like when I originally made a list of like what classes you should take,
Yeah.
it was missing jujitsu because that's not a thing I've really done. You know,
it's okay.
that's a thing I know I need. I've done a little bit of, you know, like I did Zach Bush's Entangled Gunfighting class. I need to do more. You know, I plan on it. But so it's like,
And it's not just jujitsu specifically.
yeah, it's stuff like that. Combatives.
Correct. Combatives.
Yeah.
Hand-to-hand combatives. Yeah, absolutely.
And so
Good ones. Sorry, good ones.
But like even like when I made the original list, that was the thing that was lacking. But I thought about like pistol, medical, force on force, low light, radio. I think is super
radio.
important.
That's
Radio
what,
made
I like
easy.
that. Yeah,
You know,
I like that.
because fucking hey, guess what just happened? Hurricane.
Yeah.
You know, guess who didn't have electricity? Fucking me. You know, so radio is important. And guess what too? Tactical tourist on my part. I have not been practicing with it, even though I have received training. Now, could I make it work? Probably, yeah. But like, I'm not at that super high level of confidence because I don't fucking practice with it. And you know, it's me admitting it. You know,
Yeah, well, it's
but
time.
then, but it's like you know, you can make a huge list of shit that doesn't involve touching a rifle.
Absolutely.
You know?
It's actually the majority of shit.
Yeah.
Probably that we need to be doing.
Yeah, before you, and it's like, what should you take in what order?
Yeah.
I do think take a class you want to take.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be a better student and you'll be excited to be there. You'll make it happen more likely, you know? But also, it's like, okay, if you've taken 9 fucking classes on how to shoot bill drills fast,
Fuck.
you were masturbating. You were not training.
I know it's not even masturbation anymore. Like, at least sometimes that's fun. You know? And it didn't cost me $700 for 2 days. Like,
Yeah.
God.
But you should be able to do a bill drill fast, you know? I think, like, with the standard we did at the Green Line in Red Dawn Instructor was like under 3 seconds, you know? Okay. You know, I got that, you know? And so, yeah, okay.
I'm a 3.5 probably kind of guy. Maybe 5. I'm pretty slow. You know?
I'm like one shot every 9 seconds.
Yeah.
After I warm up.
I'm a sniper. That's what I tell people.
I only need one.
Yeah.
Why are you shooting 6?
Yeah, why am I shooting 6?
But-
Because it's too heavy.
All right, man. Is there anything else we should throw on this, or?
Probably in completely different videos because this may take like 10 hours. So
Okay, we want to film another one tomorrow?
Sure, man. Yeah, I think dimensions training is like the focus subject we need to stop on because shit, we already touched on at least 2 more that you can definitely deep dive on, and like I forgot I had 2 thoughts and I know I lost one of them, but this other one is like you gotta remember like some people are just mentally incapable of understanding what you're about to teach them.
Yeah.
Let alone where it comes from, let alone dimensions of training, let alone when do I become an independent thinker, you know, all these things.
There's some things you will learn and not adopt till later.
Yeah, or just not learn, period, you know.
Or you'll learn, adopt, unadopt, readopt.
Yeah.
I've done that. Yeah.
Yeah, or you just, you know, I won't say your IQ's too low because my IQ is like average. It's just literally some people are just incapable of that shit. And that's why you have, you know, we do the LCD, right? And we put them in, you stand on the line, you ready on the right, you ready on the left, all right, load, and then, you know, you load, all right, rack, and then you're like, oh, and then you're like,
That's one of my big problems with military training. Is it's basically group punishment.
Yeah, exactly.
It is. Even if you're not getting punched in that moment, you're getting punched in the fact that they're training you at the level that they think you can handle, even if you can handle more.
Yeah.
It's also where I get the phrase, I hate teamwork.
Right. Teamwork is only me. Yeah, it's me spelled backwards because we're going backwards as a team. Forward with me. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
All right, man. So when people want to train with you, how do they contact you?
I don't know. Just call 911. Usually,
Don't do that.
Yeah, for real. I tell people in the county, like, hey, man, y'all need me? Just call 911 and call for 511, and that's my number on the fire department.
But do you have a way?
Yeah, you can. I recently, quote unquote, renamed my company. It used to be Mississippi Firearms Training Inc., and it's kind of going through a phase because I had these epiphanies a couple years ago, and it's now PACE Training Initiative. Y'all know what PACE is: Primary, Alternate, Contingency, Emergency. And it's a training initiative because this is, like, from my perspective, the eternal student, right? And students just in general, whether you're starting the path or whatever, like, you have to maintain that initiative and keep continuing it. And training is not just one facet, right? And we just talked about it. Like it's many facets, and within that whole set of facets is like there's other people out there, there's connections that you have to maintain. I think for mutual benefit in some shape, form, or fashion, and essentially it's networking, right? Like I noticed that like the networks start breaking apart because I'm in my group, we only do fast, and I'm in my group, we only do competitive shooting. I'm in my group because we only beat off on weekends or whatever. It's some crazy shit like that. And like, well, are you all good people? Yes. Do you all train in something that you believe is useful for your fight, win, survive moment? Yes. Okay. Then maybe you all need to like talk to each other, integrate with each other, and fucking share information and prepare yourselves better and your students, because, and this is coming from me because I've been burned out a couple of times with training. Law enforcement, private side, like I get to a point where I'm just like, fuck it. Like, I've done my part for me. I've done my part for people willing to come up. And if you don't want to do it and you ain't caught on the last 20 years, fuck you. Like, I've been at that point a million times, and I realize, like, maybe it's...
That happens when you're passionate about shit, dude.
Yeah, and you realize that's it.
I think there's a cycle of it, because, I have a few friends who've gone through that, and they've talked about, why do I even do this,
why we do it anymore?
Like, why am I doing this when the guy doesn't even take it seriously, He's just here to show me his gun, know?
At the gun shop, same thing.
But then you probably realize why you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyways, you can Facebook me. You can shoot me an email, msu.calvin, CALVIN, at gmail.com. You can call me or text me. I'm not putting my number out there. I'm not retarded. But no, if I know you or whatever and we met, feel free to holler at me. You can host me. The people who have hosted me know what kind of classes I put out and what I give. It's if you want to be, I don't know, more efficient. I want to say even more efficient. Sometimes I'm pretty inefficient. If I was efficient, I'd have all my shit organized. Maybe.
You have a creative mind.
Yeah,
That's I get that.
But definitely like a very fighting based, very combative based, in your context. Like give me an idea what you're looking for.
Okay.
Because that's usually how I train people.
Will you train in Florida?
Yeah, I've pretty much trained everywhere where my passport won't get denied. And I'm trying to think that the only place that might have been questioned was America. Coming back in, they're like, yeah, so that's happened a couple times. But yes, I will train in Florida, in most places of Florida.
So you should comment below if you're like, I will sign up for Calvin's class in Florida or in
just
this
show
state.
Up.
Yeah. Well, comment below so we know where.
Oh yeah, okay.
And his info will be down there in the description.
And if you got random questions about it, now I'll answer them. Maybe if you got stupid shit to say, I'm gonna forward you to somebody else. Probably to Tim or somebody.
We'll send you Tim's phone number.
Yeah, we'll send you Tim's phone number. Text this guy. Send him a dick pic. He likes those. Yeah.
He only answers if you do that.
Yeah, you got to pay up front.
All right. Well, dude, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I fucking love this.
Likewise.
It's good. Like, we stayed up many nights recently up in PA.
Yeah, just
talking all night, and I was like, I can't wait to put this on video.
Yeah, I don't even know if that was the same conversation. It was probably similar but different.
Well,
I'm sure I missed some things.
They went all over the place.
Yeah, it always does.
I want to talk about supernatural shit with you.
Man, I don't we were talking about that too at PA.
Yeah.
I don't remember what that conversation was about.
But
sometimes I blank it out because I don't want to think about it. I'm like, supernatural.
It was mostly me talking.
Yeah, that's okay. That's cool.
But thank you.
No, thank you, sir. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, man. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Click those links. Like his stuff.
That's right.
Message him. Get trained. Don't be fucking one-dimensional. Kill all pedophiles. Keep fighting communism. And remember that training saves lives.
Yep. Maybe yours. Carry your gun. Fucking make sure it's loaded. God, I gotta say that still. Carry your gun. Make sure it's loaded.